Welcome to Friends, a showcase about the amazing people involved in all spheres of the entertainment industry, discussing the good, the bad, and the ugly, but most importantly, creating a platform to truly humanize the entertainment industry, because amazing events don't happen on their own. Today, we're lucky enough to have a person I've shared amazing front houses with, done some incredible projects with, one of the most creative and eccentric people out there. Welcome, Inka.
Hey, that was amazing. Woo. Welcome you. Thanks for all our shared time.
No, thanks.
And bouncing around to amazing gigs.
Yeah, thanks for taking the time today.
Sammy, I really appreciate you doing the series. Just on that note, I just really think it's such an amazing thing to do for people to connect and reach out and just everyone get to see other faces that they might not have seen at one of the gigs before, or kind of know but not know in depth. So I'm so looking forward to watching all the interviews.
I think that's a good point. Like, I think a lot of the time we get to hang out with each other, but it's only on a job. So you're only really kind of discussing the stuff on that job, but you don't really get to sit down and talk to people. And you get to unpack little nuggets of wisdom along the way on every gig. But it's cool to sit down and actually hear people's stories, because I think there's some incredible ones to be told. I'm sure you've got some fantastic ones to share with us today. So
they're those two, but people's stories have been amazing to listen to so far. Yeah. Thanks.
So maybe just give everyone a little bit of a background, what you're currently doing in the industry today, or what you've recently been doing before COVID and things like that. So your current role in the industry, what you've been up to, what you currently do, for those who don't know.
Okay, so for those who don't know, who don't look at front of house usually, my role is pretty varied. So it's grown as, tech has changed. I've grown with it and what I'm doing with it. So I do stuff from conceptualizing to how to content create for a show, to mixing live for a show, if we're talking just events, video mapping, just VJing obviously is the live stuff, but also just generally beyond just what we're doing at live events, I really love doing stuff on the art scene and how that kind of really connects with our entertainment scene. And I do projection mapping there as well, and also collaborate and conceptualize stuff for and with artists. And I totally love just creating things with an artist, I think, for their show. That's my ultimate, where you really, doing something with them. For someone like Ricky Rick, when we did Cotton Fest, it was so much fun to be able to project onto him and create something that was in line with the look of the festival, but just also have him incorporate into that and be working with an artist on such a close level. Because a lot of the time, because of the work we do, we're quite removed from the artist. So we don't get to do that kind of real close connection. And that's been super special.
Usually 25 to 30 meters away from the stage.
Absolutely. I'm going, I'm feeling you, but I'm just in it too.
For sure. I mean, I think that pretty much really well sums up actually what you have done and what you're currently doing. I don't think what you do is in a box or in one title.
And I love that it can change and as to what the project needs. Whether that's motion design and creating something, or just coming up with ideas for how we can fit, what you're doing into my workflow, or how I fit into your workflow. And as software keeps changing, as we all keep developing what we're doing, we just keep being really flexible with everything. And that's what I've really enjoyed with everyone that I've worked with, I think, is if one can keep collaborating in such a way and see that we're all growing something together all the time. It gives people that space as well to explore and adventure and do crazy stuff and suggest crazy stuff. And I know that you guys are going through things.
This is maybe something I actually wanted to touch on later, but I don't want to forget it. So you were one of the first people that I came across that was taught me a lot about collaboration on a project and with an artist and with each other and things like that. And it was something I hadn't really seen before we got to work together, which was kind of eye-opening and kind of changed the way I had an outlook on projects. How did you get into that space of building that level of collaboration with people? I don't know how to perfectly explain it, but I think that's the best way to explain it.
I think it also comes with a lot of, just trusting each other to let each other do what you do and letting someone figure something out and giving a direction. I appreciate what you're saying. That's amazing. I think it's just been the way I don't know, maybe I've grown up, or just how I feel how everything is and should be, you know, because nobody does anything in isolation. Whether you're creating some artwork or a massive show or directing a movie, none of that happens just as one singular thing. It's all a lot of people's energies coming together and a lot of people doing something together. And I think especially from a show perspective now, if I just think lighting and video, I've always loved seeing the whole stage as, I mean, it's one entire organism. It's not a, this is one thing happening over there and that's one thing happening over there. The magic really only happens when all of that does something together and it just moves as one entire creature kind of thing. And those special moments, like those goosebumps that you get, those are just, yeah, they happen that way when you all just kind of not thinking as one, but you're moving as one. So I think it's so important that for me, it's always been that there's a really great feeling between the people that are working in front of house, and that you are just having a good time with what you're doing. And we can set pointers and go, this is really what we're thinking of here and thinking of there. But at the end, also allowing someone to jam and just really go with whatever they're feeling at that moment and following them, or then pulling it in a different direction. I think that's where you're really getting, it's just an amazing feeling.
It totally translates to the shows as well. I mean, like you can, I don't know if it's just us, but like I can totally feel if the front of house is cooking on a show, even if you're standing in the audience, like you can feel the energy. It doesn't have to always be on like perfect cue, but you can feel that energy is moving organically versus like, you know, something that is, you can walk in front of house like just dry, no one's talking to each other. I don't know. It's a very weird, I feel like it's tangible. For some weird reason, it's very tangible.
Completely.
In the show as well, like you're saying, it kind of translates, that energy of front kind of translates to the stage, just like the music from the artist will translate forward.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Comes that way.
And you said something really interesting. You said like art isn't created in isolation. How is that going for you now? Now that we're in isolation, because I think this is like a real question. Obviously, is like how has it been trying to create and continue to be creative and work, just general work for a living, being in isolation? How's it been?
There are many sides to it. I think it's been tough on a, you know, purely psychological self-survival kind of level. So, I mean, I'll leave that aside for now. Because I think what actually helped me get out of a headspace where I was really worrying about the world in general and what crazy stuff is happening and politicians and, you know, all that stuff. If I'm just not talking personally, actually the collaboration is what continued for me and continued to actually get me out of it. So I was just reaching out to friends and doing something weird, like recording your thoughts about the world and with a weird face filter and doing some glitchy stuff with that has really helped me go, it's just, we're still communicating, we're still reaching out to each other, we're still collaborating, whether that's us thinking about stuff or expressing it visually or creating a project from it or anything. So having someone to bounce things off and not feel like we're doing anything alone has helped. And I think that's also on a very high kind of society level, on a very survival level, is I think what's helping is people reaching out to each other and going, yes, we're all going through this together, but it's completely unique to everyone alone and their circumstances. And I think once you get past your own circumstances and realize the things you can't do anymore, but rather look at all the stuff you have, be grateful for the things and figure out how you can help somebody else, that's helped my mind absolutely, completely. So, because at the beginning I wasn't creative at all. I was like, okay, this is it. We have time. All my projects are gone. My entire year had been filled up. Suddenly, your entire year is empty. It's not something that we're used to.
No.
So I was like, this is, you know, all those things that I've had on my to-do list that I never had time for since a year. And then I just couldn't do any of that. I was just sitting there going, I don't know, this sounds very, I don't want to sound dramatic and make light of somebody that's having far worse problems than me, going, I have a creative block because I'm worried about my financial survival. You know, that's a different issue. So I'm really grateful that I have had those tools to slowly find my way into unpacking what's going on inside me emotionally by finding ways to communicate with people on a creative level and figure out little projects that help. And you know, for someone like, say, Jackie Queens, I filmed them a while ago and then I just sent her the visuals as a mix, and she was actually able to use it in one of her streams, and just think of whatever we have already. There's so much we can share with everyone. I mean, that's a small example. I've been chatting to Mike a lot from PHFAT as well, and just thinking of what new shows to come up with, or even if it's nothing that's happening right now, just to keep each other going and being inspired and just keep moving forward, because every day is just every day that you're trying to get through.
It's interesting you say, like, I totally understand what you're saying about like not trying to discredit other people's situations, but in the same breath, like you mentioned before, everyone's situation is absolutely unique. So it's just important to not discredit how you're feeling as an individual, because maybe there are other people that are worse off than you, and you're not discrediting them either. Like, the situations are absolutely unique, and it's okay to look at them as individual situations.
And that nobody knows what's going to happen and when this is going to really end and what the future looks like.
No one knows. What are we going to walk out to at the end of this? I think that at the beginning of the lockdown and everything, everyone was like, I've got this massive to-do list. Like, how do I tackle it? And I kind of wanted to ask, like, did you feel, maybe post the block, like, do you feel like you're having time to maybe consider things a bit more creatively and consider things with a bit more time? Because I know in the past, like, with projects, there's very tight deadlines and, financial restraints in terms of you can only spend so much time on a project, and you back to back on other projects. You're kind of having to just get things done. And it's not a case of neglecting projects, but it's just a case of maybe not being able to spend as much time unpacking ideas. Do you feel that now you're able to kind of explore things a bit more, creative ideas that maybe you had in the back pocket, or projects that you were working on that maybe, do you feel that this is a better way of working, or do you prefer the pressure of running back to back on projects? What kind of brings out the best in you?
I think it's a bit of both. I mean, I've really enjoyed having time to have a different approach on some things and get to the stuff. I think the projects that are more really personal, that express what I think about the world and my philosophy and all of that kind of stuff. So I think that happens, and that one needs time where you really get to slow down and process and work with what's there. But those are, I guess, more private projects. So they're not really, they're not the hype thing. But I think, I don't know, in a way, I find sometimes, although we work under really tight deadlines, it makes you make decisions really quickly, and it makes you just keep moving. And a lot of the creative process is just, picking a direction and going and unfolding and going. And I think if there's a lot of time and you're not using it in a, like, I guess an artist practice for me is the process is the creation, whereas what we're working towards is the end product. So when you just focus on the end product, you have to just keep moving and you have to keep going in a direction, and there are a lot of people that depend on whatever things you set up front. So I don't know, I quite like that pressure. It's not like that I'm an adrenaline junkie or anything, but I
think deep down we're all addicted to that pressure a little bit. I think we
are. Yeah, you do something and it's there and it's in the moment and it's go, and you've got 3 projects stacked on top of each other, and there's a commitment inside yourself, I think, that happens that doesn't question as much. And I find when you have a lot of time, that kind of self-reflection can be a good thing. But I think if you haven't practiced kind of sitting in that space, it can also easily derail you, where you just go, oh, now I've got 5 ideas. Which way should I start? But I feel grateful that I think through this time pressure that we usually have, and through the last few years of just being on quite an intense schedule, what I felt maybe a couple of years ago by making art or trying to express something and find my direction is actually, it's become easier. So I guess it's like a muscle that you've exercised. Just keep going. Make a decision and go.
I think you can just strain that muscle. It's very easy, like in a busy time, to also strain that muscle. And it's not always about like, everything having too much time. Think just, just trying to catch our breath in between
balance.
things. Yeah. Just these like...
Balance would be good.
Balance would be good. I think you've obviously got an incredible past and your like origin story into the industry and how you have gotten to where you are, I think is quite dynamic and super interesting. Every time we speak about it, there's always something new that I'm learning. So I kind of want to dive into that a bit and like, you've told me some crazy stories of like VJing on VHS and like as a kid who came into the industry, a little later on, those sort of things just seem absolutely bizarre to me. But in the same breath, you're just like kind of amazing. So I think there's a lot of I'm sure amazing
Stuff
stories to kind of share. Like, how did you get into the industry? Like, what got you to this point?
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the path, I guess, is like if one goes back to growing up in an artistic family and feeling supported creatively, I think that's always been there. And so I went via graphic design into film editing and living then in Cape Town and moving here from Namibia, and taught myself motion design, and then really just loved film editing in general, just what you can do with an image and how you weave that together, but that being such a slower process usually, a very considered process, and really working through the options. And way back in 2000, when Crash and Sorted was launching their Acid Made Me Do It CD, Peter Robson, who's one of the original pioneers, I mean, he played on, with gels and just how visuals used to be a very, very long time ago before any of the tech. He was mixing on with VHS and a great old Panasonic MX50, fantastic machine. And he said, well, just, cut it, tape together. You do one VHS, I do one VHS, and we just mix it live. So it was crazy because on the event, they lined up the CD, press play. We were like, yes, 1, 2, and press play. And that kind of synchronicity that is just, you kind of hoping that it's all working out. That happening on that level, not the whole time code thing or anything like that, or running it, just completely different. And then just being able to play that night, it completely blew my mind. Just, mixing and obviously applying all the things that I know from editing or from design, but just being able to do that real time right there with the music, responding to something, responding to how it feels in the room, making decisions, and just being in that flow I was completely hooked. It was just, this is it. I love this. It was a complete wow. So, I mean, back then, I mean, I guess now it's great to see how the whole vaporwave style is bringing back the VHS retro look. And
let's not go there.
But also seeing people run around at gigs with, filming on high 8 and just all kinds of just stuff where you go, it's so nice though that people are exploring that kind of visual style as well, because what I loved about it was just that organicness, that hands-on. And I guess back then, definitely, I mean, there was no LED, so no massive screens. It was all just projectors. And we would usually, I mean, there was a small crew. It was Peter, Anwar, Jeremy, and I. We'd basically be doing everything, like running our cables, climbing around the roofs, hanging screens, getting projectors. And I think that's also really taught me a massive thing of now, how privileged I am to be able to rock up at front of a house and go, wow, thank you guys. You've run 50,000 meters of everything, and I can plug in and play. But it also, I think back then, being super experimental, it was really great because you could just really freeform. Nobody was there going, this is how it should be and this is what another show looks like or something. You would just create what you wanted, explore a theme, and kind of make your own visual art almost and play with it and see what happens. And then figure out with experience, this is what works to the music and this is what works with that. And really feeling out what musical style determines what kind of visual aesthetic, and playing with it all. So the origin story.
A lot of people have a very specific thing that they do, like over and over. I think that there's definitely an Inka has a look. I definitely think you've pioneered your own look, which is really cool. But I think that watching, been privileged enough to do like a lot of diverse different gigs with you, watching you do visuals for like all kinds of artists from every kind of genre. Like you're saying, open yourself up to experimentation has been like really interesting to watch, because obviously you've got like certain VJs that can do certain things, and like same with lighting guys and other people, like they kind of have their niche, and I guess everyone does to an extent, but it's cool to like also experiment, like put yourself into maybe genres or positions that are new to you, because you can kind of try new things. Otherwise you can, it's very easy to get stuck into the same thing over and over, I guess. Hey?
Yeah, I think in some way it kind of happens naturally with whatever you do, because I think you kind of not specialize, but specialize in a direction initially, I'm sure, because that's what makes you passionate and go, hey, I really love exploring this thing. But then once you get known for that thing, you get hired for that thing, and that reinforces that you're going to stay on that path. And so I think there can be a great joy found in that, really, really diving deep into one thing. but I guess I've definitely always I like playing on in so many variety of things. And I think I feel super fortunate that I was able to play for so many different musical styles as well from the beginning, whether it was live bands and dub or drum and bass or I mean, it was a super early electronic music scene in Cape Town. So there was also, everybody was, I think, really on a musical style, not even just finding their style, but creating their style and just flowing and going with it. And wasn't like, okay, you have to fit into this box and that's it. I mean, that kind of marketing and brand language, yes, of course, that is important to some degree, but it was completely free form. And I feel so grateful. I mean, I've had hours, especially in the beginning when I was traveling with African Dope, and I was playing for Kalahari Surfers and Moonface 5 and just so many, and Felix and just so many different people. So I really enjoyed going, so I'm here to play for 8 hours for all these artists, but how do I express everyone individually? How do I give everyone their own thing using the same kind of tools? Back then, have some clips recorded on a VHS and you have the effects that you've got on the MX50. And how do you figure out that you use a certain effect maybe just for one artist, still leaving room for experimentation and what happens again in the room, but just how do you make everyone kind of look really special and again reinforce their message or their identity and give them something that people also, I think afterwards you remember an association in sort of it's like a sticker moment basically. You have that's what you remember and that's what that looked like and that moment looked like that and that artist was in this style. So I feel it's like movies or anything. You remember them because there's a very strong particular flavor to them in one way.
Yeah. So we're talking about with Blaze, about like that amazing moment of creating memories for people. I think that's like kind of does tie in the same space. Like you get to create these like memory snapshots for people, and whether they know you're a part of it or not, you get to be a part of this bigger picture that is like this giant snapshot in someone's life. Be it an artist or yourself or an audience member or something like that. It's kind of really a big privilege and kind of scary sometimes.
I mean, I think for me, humans experiencing something collective is vital for us. I think it's really important. And I think it's important that we feel connected, that we feel seen, heard, understood, and that we feel that as a massive community. I think that's built into our brains. It's hardwired into us. And I think that's why some of this isolation has very specific effects it has. And so if we're having these gatherings, I think it's also really important to know that although I'm just doing the visuals and in a sense I'm just responding to what the musician is doing, but that I still have a choice in how do I shape that? Do I just go along with, I don't know, showing like crazy, violent, whatever stuff? Or do I go, hey, let's have a moment and reflect or feel good? Or it's not about that lightness of being is like a light thing. It's like a real, like, for example, I don't like really playing videos that completely objectify women or something, unless those are women that are creating their own content and are completely in charge of that. Yeah.
It's something that actually doesn't really get spoken about a lot, actually. Like, we kind of get get forced, that's maybe a bit rough, but like we get put into situations that we maybe don't all agree with morally, but we're working. Like how do you deal with that? Like especially as a woman, like we've done some very questionable projects.
Interesting.
And it's work. It's work after all.
No, I think I figured out that if something really raises flags quite soon, I try to just figure out how to protect myself or how to make the best of that and steer it in a direction that I still feel I can handle and it's not overstepping a certain line, definitely. I mean, I also see that I'm not responsible for, let's say, the lyrics that musicians are writing or something like that. I can't, that's their expression and them. And in a sense, I think we are only responding and writing what society already is putting out there. So it's like we are this massive echo chamber in a way, like whatever musical style you look into or something, people are going, oh, you saying that's so cool, I'll say that, or I'll go even harder, or I'll go weirder or whatever. So I definitely go, you know, that's got nothing to do with me, but I can kind of figure out how to navigate it and still hopefully create a space with the background and the surrounding visuals that are not reinforcing that message, but talking about the opposite and changing that. So, but it's been, I mean, definitely, no, I have been pushed to a place where I've kind of also gone, I don't think I can take these kind of bookings anymore, because they're just, it's like it's just too hard to see what it's doing to everyone in a space. Because I feel like, I mean, we're there from, you know, obviously sometimes weeks before the setup of a show, and we get to be there to the very end when the floors get swept and that's it, you know, space is getting cleared out. So we get to see how people feel at the end of a show. And I often find that that's when you really see what has been the actual kind of dominant vibe in the room, because you can feel whether there's been like, I don't know, aggression, or whether there's been just like complete unconsciousness, or whether people are like, wow, man, that was amazing. You know, we're feeling great. Yes, we got whatever, drunk or whatever, you know, that's not just the deciding factor. There's an energy beyond that you can really feel.
For sure.
And
you've obviously created a lot of art and performance media and things like that in different kinds of spaces. And I kind of want to discuss your feeling. Do you have different feelings around work that is more permanent, something that is like longer lasting, be it like a fixed installation or something you physically create, versus like what we do in the live space, which is like completely fleeting and like gone in that split second, it's gone. Do you have like different approaches? Do you have different feelings about the way that your art will be like portrayed, if it's, if that makes any sense?
Yeah, no, I think it definitely does make sense. I think, I mean, they're both valid in terms of human memory. Like, I think when somebody experiences something in our, you know, live moment, or whether they go to walk past an artwork that's out in the street or in an installation, they're still having that one moment with it. So I think for me that moment is the same. Like, I consider that moment with the same kind of respect given to that moment, I think, and making sure that is I can, again, morally stand behind it and I can connect with it. But on a level of just being involved in media that is more lasting and has a bigger message, or allows people to really take the time to go inward and just be with it and sit with it, and it's not that energy, it's that energy. You know, that I love that, because I think, again, as humans, there's so many things wired into us, the collective connectivity, but also just storytelling and what that evokes and how we emotionally connect with something. And I really love creating a space where people can connect with what is inside them and finding their answers and their responses. So it's not about defining this is how you're supposed to feel when you look at this, or that I have to explain this artwork to you. I think just feel what you're feeling and be with that feeling. So I love doing those kind of things. I love the installation stuff that lasts longer, or also just with something that I did with Faith 47, just seeing her approach to, you know, doing something with street art, and then I was doing projection mapping onto it. But so generally her approach with street art being of, it's in a public space, everybody has access to it. I think that's also a really important aspect to art. Art shouldn't be somewhere locked up in some kind of elite sort of room, access controlled, blah. You know, I think it's important that any kid in school, anywhere, sees something and goes, hey man, there's somebody that's doing this is a career. I mean, this I think applies to our industry as well as any kind of artist, that it would be great that there was just more of that surrounding us, and because art has a I don't know, it has a social conscience. It's kind of, it asks questions of you. It is a mirror. It is going, you know, who are you with this? Are you responding to this? Or it's making a statement about what's going on, again, especially with what Faith is saying in her work. But she's also incredibly okay with letting that work deteriorate or change over time and become part of what's around it. So that's taught me a lot, that what we do in that moment is really important, but letting that moment be what it is, letting people live with it however it is, and then letting it change over time and letting it become something else and become part of a different kind of discussion. Because again, I think whenever we create something, that's not where it ends. You know, like when we create a show, for us, that's definitely the climax of what we've done over weeks and months of things, of putting that moment together. And yes, that thing worked out and that high point was reached. And yes, we all hit it. That's all great. But that moment lives on and is changed. There is change in the memories. But when you do an artwork as well, it becomes people start talking about it, or it just becomes part of a discussion somewhere and somebody else does something in reaction to it. So I think it's really great that everything we're doing, we know that it's going to just be part of something that keeps in the flow. At the same time that it's kind of permanent, but it's a bit of a complex there.
Yeah, no, it's a complex industry, I think, to be in. Like with regards to the industry at the moment and like the industry through your entire career, like what is the thing that made you fall in love with it, and what is the thing that made you stay in the industry and stay to this day instead of just getting out and doing something else?
Just the absolute love for it, I think. Just being able to experience those moments where you know that what you're doing right there has an effect, and also the people with it, just knowing, like with you guys and with everyone, just that you've connected, you've made friendships, you're there with the same approach in mind and the same intention, and you're getting to do something that's super special. And you have moments along a show so often where, I don't know, I have those goosebumps and I'm like, this is amazing, I love this and I get to do this. And yes, there are, sleepless nights, and you like at something like Bushfire where I play for 3 days, I have very little sleep, but the music and what musicians are doing on stage and what I get to be able to do with them and respond and be part of this collective moment, it's incredible. It's something completely unique, I think, to this specific thing. The art thing is a different thing, but this industry is it's just super special. I mean, that you have people like families at a festival, or it's a very specifically aimed festival, just the stuff that happens for them as well, I think is fantastic. And that artists get to be on stage and express who they are, in whatever way they wish to, and be creative and be heard. I love all of it. I just love it. Sorry.
Do you really love all of it? Because that's like my next question is like, what are the things you don't love about the industry?
Well,
what are the things you could change? What could you, if you could change some stuff in the industry, what would it be?
I mean, we touched on it before, I think, but again, I think that's a massive, much bigger societal kind of issue, just how women are seen, because I've always just done what I do. And obviously, whether I was in the animation industry, film industry, whatever industry I was in, there are few women. And I think now, I mean, they're amazing music producers, they're amazing female identifying across any genre, doing things, beings. There's just really amazing stuff happening. And I feel like there are some artists obviously wanting to support that and do something like Rosefest. But I think just generally it would be nice that there was more space, because I think the more we see women or different people doing something compared to the same kind of massive genres, the more people see that they can do that. So I'd love to figure out how to be part of that change, definitely. But I know I know any change is not something that you can really force on something. It has to be something that people stand behind and it grows organically. It's not something to go, this is what we're going to do now, everybody, and I don't care if you believe in it or not. I think people have to really, know that it's the right thing. And I think I have hope that changes, basically. That we're not, that everyone is just in control of their own being, their own, I don't know, just themselves and how they're seen, and just that is there, But
that makes complete sense.
I also on some level I think it would be really nice, and this is maybe a whole other conversation, but it would be great if there was space for people to come up in the industry. I mean, I think we can have assistants and people that are helping, but if there was a way to go, I don't know, just bring someone on and have them around. I know front of house is sometimes crowded, and so there's no ideal kind of approach to this. But just to figure out how to open everything up. I think we are all. I'm not saying there's a closed mindset or anything. I really don't think so. I think there's amazing colleges doing great work. But I just figure so I don't have a solution for this. How to figure out how to create more events or platforms for people to learn on or experiment on or just play on, because everything takes money and budgets. And I wish brands could get behind, instead of maybe not the one-off festival, but the one-off thing, maybe they could get behind a long-sighted kind of, sponsoring someone's schooling or something, or I don't know. I mean, I'm just talking here. I don't really have a solution there.
No, but it's true because you've kind of got this chicken and egg situation where you don't have any experience, so no one will give you the opportunity, and then you don't have the opportunity because you never get given, you never got the experience. Exactly. It's like, what is that point where someone's going to give you a break and go like, okay, here, if you mess it up, it's not the end of the world. Like, we can move on. I
hear you. I think especially the thing with mistakes, I think people, like you only learn through doing something sometimes. Oh, that's what that causes that to happen. And to not be that, precious about that and just let it happen. And especially sharing of knowledge. I mean, I've really seen from 20 years ago to how it is now, I think massive things have shifted. Things have shifted massively in the film industry and on all levels where, again, certain roles are really important in terms of a hierarchical structure, and that kind of has to be there for safety reasons and all kinds of stuff. But it's nice that kind of matric standard 8 weird behavior of like, I'm going to, just because you're less than me, I can talk down to you. It's really nice to see less of that. I mean, it's still a process, but I think it's quite different to what it was a long time ago, where people are going, you're not so blocked off about what you're doing. It's because the person that you're teaching to can show you something as well, because they're approaching it in a different way and they're doing something new with it that you wouldn't have done because you've got these kind of rehearsed and structured ways of doing something. So I think there's good in both. There's definitely good in the discipline. I wouldn't throw that away, but there's greatness in allowing a room for experimentation and just letting someone try something and mess around.
It's a skill set, isn't it? Like finding the moments to choose which one is which. That's a skill set that gets developed as well, and often gets led by the mentors above you. Like, we kind of circle back. It's like, the people who help you out and teach you to grow. Like, they also teach you how to take the right chances at the right times, and when to push, when to pull, when to let things go, when to not let go of things, and try and make it better. So it's about empowering each other, and I don't think like our industry specifically is really unique. I think to the fact that like, it's not so much that like there's generations before us that have taught us what to do, because the industry is kind of like brand new even still now,
Totally.
And everyone's learning from each other. There's no like
that's what I was going to say earlier as well when you were saying how do you find that moral, is like I found just the more you take jobs and things from the people where you're going to be aligned in a kind of way of thinking. So you create that because you create that environment more, and therefore those other things and the people that are around in those environments get to experience that and go, oh wow, that's so different to over there. Let's figure out how to change that.
What do you think is like the biggest misconception about our industry? I'm sure there's plenty.
I don't know. I mean, I guess because I kind of just approached it, I was in it from so early. I never really had and like you say, it's a really young industry in that sense. I never really looked at it from the outside in a way. I mean, obviously, yes, at the very beginning, I would go to parties and go, wow, this is amazing and kind of thing. But so I don't know. For me, that kind of misconception or something about the industry in general more applies to kind of celebrity status and the stuff that we look at for artists. Not really. I think what we're doing, I think I'm fortunate to be amongst people that all know that you're playing a role in something that's bigger. It's not about you in it. So the whole ego thing is really important to let go of. I don't think anybody would hopefully really come into front of house to go, it's about me and what I do.
We've all seen that. Let's not pretend like we haven't. But
but I think, so I mean, I think the misconception with like, I don't know, I think fame generally is like a curse, I think people that are up on stage going, yo, I'm amazing because I'm up here doing this thing and I'm more important. I think it's a hectic life to lead because everyone wants a piece of you and everyone projects their stuff onto you and you have to be whatever for them. And, the masses can turn quite quickly. So I don't know. I think just generally with people going, I want to, be a rock star, whatever, I think there's a big kind of sense of maybe again our society's pushed a celebrity kind of culture, you know, and whether that's in magazines or whatever, how we adore these people and get involved in their lives and make decisions about whether they should get married or divorced or crap like that. It's really weird how we get involved in other people's lives. And sorry, now I'm on a whole other topic. But I think it's, yeah. So, I mean, I think, again, okay, industry misconception. I don't know. I loved everything that I did in it, and I'm grateful to have grown in it. And I mean, you said something about tech earlier, but I mean, I think I jumped in and I learned whatever I could about anything at any time. You know, like any gear in that way, or plugging what in and what does this do. And then coming from, you know, mixing VHSs and mini DVs and DVDs, and the first time playing when a PC or laptop could finally handle playing, the resolution was like 360 by 240 and something awesome, you know, like you kind of learning that software as quickly as you can and figuring out how all these things work. So you have to keep adapting. So I think maybe in that sense, like the industry is never a fixed thing. There's never this place that you reach where you've made it. And, you know, maybe that comes back to where the artist is of like, oh, well, now I'm like amazing at this. Like you keep just being humble and learning and, you know, communicating and just growing and knowing, I don't know, knowing when not to, like that you're maybe not passionate about a certain aspect of it, but still learning as much as you can about it, to understand what someone's role is and what they're doing, and that you might be making their life harder if you're asking for a certain thing.
Yeah,
you know,
sure.
just...
No, I mean, I think what my thing about technology earlier was that I think that the reason I said that was because you're one of the few people that don't see technology as a crutch. Like a lot of people get like hell bent. It's like, oh, it has to be this way, or it won't work.
Gotcha.
And you kind of just embrace the tools around you to just do kind of empower what you're doing, not to hinder. I mean, it's like people always ask, oh, what's the best lighting desk? What's the best sound? It's like whatever gets your ideas onto the stage as fast as possible. You know what I mean? Like, because you've kind of taken the tools around you and like built a perfect solution for you right now, and then it will change, you know, weekly, daily, shortly, whatever, as it goes. But it's not like without this I can't do that. It's like, you know what I mean?
Or if this egg fails, let's make a plan, let's figure something else out. I mean, because
the greater vision of the show is there, you know. It's not like
absolutely
it's like you're saying, it's not about you or the piece of equipment. It's not you know what I mean? Like you're saying, you can make a show work on VHS, or you know, the latest gear. It doesn't really matter.
Or with one light.
It's just a tool. It's just a tool. It's the paintbrush for the picture. It helps to have nice tools.
Absolutely.
But it doesn't make a show.
Exactly. Explore all aspects of it and go and all of that. But I mean, just really focus on the thing that is important is the show, and those moments that are, you know, connecting within a show and building. And then you know, you only have the high point of a show because you had something that led up to it, and then you take it somewhere else. It's not all just about that big moment in the show, you know. So there's lots to that. I mean, I don't know, if you want to hear a crazy story,
of course.
When I was thinking about all these things earlier, I played a gig once when Felix Laband launched his music video, and he was launching it at the Joburg bar. And he contacted me just before, and he was like, hey, can you do something? I'm actually going to not just play the video, but I'm going to do a little bit of a gig afterwards. And I had, at that time, it was, you know, just before, I was like, okay, what do I do? So I just had there was no space. I mean, it was right up on a little balcony thing, plugging into the projector. It was quite wild. So I basically just had the tape that I had, the mini DV that I had for him for his shows, where his videos were on and his graphics that I'd created, you know, that you'd usually press play and wait to happen, or forward and wait to happen. There wasn't like, oh, that clip is there. It's like, you kind of, you know, you have to know your tape kind of thing. And then, so I basically played for his gig using my little mini DV camera as a playback thing, and it had a couple of effects on it, so you could kind of mosaic the picture or black and white it or something. And then whenever I had to rewind the tape to go back to a certain moment, I'd, you know, pixelate it, rewind, play. So I basically played with one, like play and rewind on a mini DV camera, and it really was fun. I had such a blast. Who knew? Yeah,
exactly. So, like, isn't that like, you know, it's so interesting because people always say like, oh, that person makes a great lighting guy or great video guy. It's like, I always say it's so easy to make a big show look good, you know, but how do you make a show with
tools?
How do you make a show with like a tiny screen or no lights look good. Then you
Yeah.
can really see who's got the chops and who doesn't. Because it's easy to turn on
But
200 moving lights or like 100 square meters of video wall. You turn that on, you're going to blow people away,
yeah,
no matter what you do. So
yeah, exactly. Super impressive.
yeah, and I think
Yeah.
it's like you're saying, it's like that journey, that like figuring that out, and be like, oh, what a cool moment, what a fun memory like you get to have. It's not like, oh, okay. I think that's another really important takeaway, like the approach to what we do. It needs to have that, like that, almost like this childlike wonder of like leaving every project going, like, that was so kiff. Like I learned something new. I didn't know that before. That was such a cool experience in that moment. We all,
No, I mean, I feel for you though. I mean, I do feel that. I mean, I know, the love that keeps me here for it is in a way the love or that high that you get from it. That thing of going, wow, we did something special and that's amazing. So you look for those moments and you need those moments because you've worked really, really hard for a really long time and slept very little and haven't seen your family for those moments. That can give you that kind of, I know why I'm doing this. Because that's, I think, what you need, what you're getting from it. Just that affirmation of, okay, what I'm doing makes a difference. And it's okay. I'm here for that. And I'll give it everything I've got again and again. So I think you definitely need those. And I mean, I remember like way back playing, and I think it was, I'd almost kind of, I'd be so focused on creating, the different looks for the different artists. And in it, I mean, I'd hardly, although I could really feel and react to the energy in the room, I hardly looked up, and I didn't know how many people were dancing at what time. I'd kind of glance up and go, okay, cool, and carry on, because I was so in that. And then whenever I made, I don't know, like a mistake that I thought was a mistake of like, I don't know, not hitting that filter soon enough or doing something that I didn't think lived up to my weird standards, I remembered those moments, and I'd be like, oh, haunted by them. And it took me a while to go, wow, I'm remembering this snippet out of like hours, and I'm beating myself up about them. And they don't actually, no one, if someone noticed, whatever, and no one noticed most probably. And the other stuff that you get to build is so amazing beyond that. So the same as like, say, now I'm really loving feeling and rather being aware of what's going on the whole time and being in that and focusing on those moments that are really important, because there are actually so many of them. Like whether that is going, wow, the way that screen works out with how like what we had at Cotton Fest, where how the set was set up, that you had like once they were standing in front of the camera, in front of the banner, and how that square screen was working behind them and how that fed into something. When you know that was absolutely designed in some way before, but how you actually see it really happening live, and just going, this is it. And I think having those moments is what you draw from, and it kind of nurtures you, and you go, hey, that's going to lead to an idea, to something else. And I understand they're super important. But it's important to have, what I'm trying to say is it's important to have the headspace that allows you to focus on those moments rather on keep focusing on the stuff that's possibly going wrong or the thing that's not happening over there that you thought should be happening at this point. It's like, that's happening, and it's important to make a note of and go, I must check that thing later or whatever. But keep finding those moments that can really give you that other thing. And I think that applies to anything in life. Like we can all keep worrying about the stuff we didn't do or something that went wrong. And again, mistakes are important to learn from, but they're not there to be this permanent thing to hold over yourself. They're there to just go, cool, got that from that. Now I'm going to focus on the amazing thing that I got from it.
I think focusing on the negative will turn you jaded really quickly. And our industry is really good at turning people jaded. So, I mean...
Yeah, because, sorry, if I may, on that note, I think there's very little, like I think there's few artists, or I notice the artists that are on stage that say thank you to the crew. I really notice that, because in the many years that I've played, that hasn't happened that often. It does happen, and I'm not saying it doesn't, and I think a lot of artists feel it, and without saying it, they are saying it and all of that. But I really, really appreciate when a festival or an artist just goes, wow, thanks crew, thank you lighting guys, thank you sound, thank you for doing this. Or if, something is going wrong, that they're not shouting at the crew, but that they're just going, wow, thanks. We've got some technical issues. Someone's going to help sort us out. These guys know their thing. They're coming up with a solution right now. Let's do a sing-along in the meantime.
They usually throw us under the bus.
Just, exactly.
Artists are quick to throw us under the bus.
Whoa, why? And maybe that is, has something to do with how young our industry is, that there hasn't been that kind of, you know, like in Europe, it's such a long, and in the States, everything, the festival, let's say now, just festival industry has grown from a very long kind of history of stuff happening. And I think you as an artist you as an artist are seen as a different kind of contributor to the society in a way. Whereas we've gone from, we're not allowed to listen to other people's music, we're all isolated in crazy place we're living in, to, okay, this is your kind of music now, and you only move in these circles, to, okay, I'm a superstar and I'm going to be bling bling, because that's the message coming from somewhere else, and we're mirroring that message. So that kind of, just the respect of the entire structure, and that being an organic process, and you're not coming in on the top of it and there to shout at anyone about what they're doing, has maybe not been taught because it hasn't been lived by example. So
yeah, I mean, we've kind of seen and done all weird stuff. And like, what's in your thinking back now? Like, do you have any standout best gigs you've ever done?
Oh, that's a tough one. There's so many amazing ones for so many reasons.
Give us the highlight reel.
So,
doesn't have to be one.
The highlight reel. Okay, so because it's kind of the art reel and all of that, I'm going to start there and then move into our reel. So, I mean, for me, definitely doing stuff at... okay, cool. For me, Design and Arbor for me was a special one. Getting to work in a theatre where we did, Aurum that we'd conceptualized together with Faith 47 for Berlin, actually, with Mante Rebane first. And then we got to actually, in Berlin, we did it like in a room, and we figured out our own things and how to hang stuff and, makeshift with low budgets, but just wanting to make something happen and tell the story. And then being able to do that on a real stage at the Artscape, with having all the things of being able to pull a screen up, just all the things that a structure allows you to do, was a great one. But I think for me, Blink Cincinnati and doing the projection mapping there with Liberty on that. Sorry, I keep
that looks amazing.
Amazing projects, Faith.
Yeah.
That was incredible. I mean, I was given like 2 24K Barco projectors of like, oh my God, wow, that's a lot of light. How we are when we have to scrounge for budgets. And it was just it was incredible to be able to go, I don't have to worry about that. I can plug in and go and create something, and it'll read and it'll be bright. And I can really just focus on what is it that I'm telling, and not worry about will it come across on a technical level, basically. And just people there really connecting to the message, and really, again, I love what we were saying there was just how we are, connected as humans, and that we should really be thinking about what's going on in other countries, and that there are no borders, and that, it really came across and was very important, I think, to reach people at a time where in the States especially things are, the way they are. And having people come up to you in tears, it's not like we want to make anyone cry, but feel that there is that understanding and there's that shift that happens inside, was a really special thing for me. And again, being able to, honoring that you're not reaching inside someone and, knotting up their emotions, but you're giving them a way to move through something and hopefully find some kind of inspiration of that they can make the difference in their life and in their behavior.
But it's so easy to take a cheap shot. You know what I mean? We're gonna really give them a heart wrencher. Let's do it. You know? And to not do that, but still be as powerful as it is. It is. I guess I don't want to use the word was, because I think it still is. That's difficult, actually. Because it makes you question a lot of stuff inside you as well. It's like, have you, where's the balance, and did you inspire enough, or didn't you, or did you actually say something? Because in everything that we said in there, we try to be as universal as possible, but there'll always be, because you're using images, it'll be from a certain place, so you don't want to exclude anyone, and you really want to make sure that people are getting the message that everything that we're doing is about humans in general, and humans helping each other, even like now and all. But on shows, we've done some amazing ones. Some crazy memorable ones, yeah.
Some crazy memorable ones. But really, you mentioned Mike earlier and PH Fat. I think that was this really, really special show. The Oppie Copy and with our
that was a special
Kabuki
time,
drop.
I think.
That was a special time, yeah.
Just that period of my life and of the industry, I feel as well, was like, I look back now and it's like, I should have really realized how fleeting that moment really was. I miss those moments. They were something special. Like what we created, there was like such a DIY attitude. And
Yes.
it was like this weird blend of just like, hell yeah. And now it's becoming more formal. The industry is becoming more and more formal, and, artists are having to, react to that as well. And so do we. And it loses a little bit of its like sparkle to not have such a cool DIY grit to it all the time.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know if you want to recreate it. I don't know, maybe I'm being too idealistic about it, but I think, if one could get a brand or something behind it and you created a show that is kind of a bit more intimate and it's not about all of that, where you do make it more about that kind of DIY approach. Because I think it's also nice for an audience to see that they're not constantly having this perfection. It's not a TV show coming your way perfectly edited. It's real.
Yeah.
It's be part of this experience. And I think the moment you set that intention or you set that space for it, you can make something like that happen. It's just that, yes, I guess we're operating in very different spheres right now where those things have to be perfect. But I think giving people credit, I think even when stuff happens or people have to solve something within something, an audience is actually usually really forgiving as long as you're in it together and you're doing this thing and it's okay. Maybe it's also pressure we put on ourselves.
So interesting. Earlier, you were talking about like time code and starting a show, pressing play, and you're talking about the Oppie Copy show. Like I'm sure you remember, like we had Notch on the phone who was on stage. We were like, okay, 3, 2, 1.
Are we?
What?
What?
We all started the intro. There was no time code back then. We hadn't figured that out yet.
No.
It was just crazy. But it was so much fun. Like
it all works. So much fun.
Anyway.
So much fun. And maybe that's the thing, like finding that and also going like what you said earlier, with tech is not getting in the way of that if you just do that. Like, yes, some stuff has been made easier and we should just enjoy that easier part of it. And yes, it's taken away from if I now, if there's a time-coded show that runs that I've now prepared visuals for, it's a very different experience for me to just stand there and go, okay, this is running, but there's still something in that. I mean, like in comparison, like when I got to play for Black Coffee
I was going to ask
last
about that,
year.
because if you think about the journey of like what you've done for Mike and like how you've moved into doing that show for Black Coffee, it's such they're so connected in the way that the journey's kind of grown, but they were like completely different approaches, right?
Again, I think it's the same approach as to any show. It's like, how do you build those moments within it, and how do you keep, separating the one look from the other? And I think especially there, because I played for all artists basically that entire event long, but really again, and finding unique looks for them. But I think the basis for me, or the starting point, is always kind of the sculpture of the show. Going, this is the stage, this is what we've got, this is the space that we're working with, and this is where the audience is, and this is how we're responding to it. And now we can, how do we design the cameras and how do they fit into that? That's one kind of side of it. But how do you work with the sculpture, basically, the architecture of it, and how do you make that shine, and how do you reveal it, and how do you delay the reveal of that? So for me, definitely working with those, structures that were in the stage and making them become very real crystals and very real things in space. And, for Black Coffee's show, by the end, we'd built towards, there was a dune landscape, and these were just these crystals within it, and they could spin in space, and then that becomes part of the background. So just using the visual language of what is already actually in place rather than working against it, I think is super important anyway. Like what we did, with Mike, was go, hey, we've got this space, now we're going to move you over here, and then this drops, and then we move you back there, and we keep layering and adding, and you keep kind of stacking in 3-dimensional space to get to certain areas.
You did Coffee the year before as well, right?
Yes,
so
yeah. The year
that
before.
kind of also goes on to what I was saying earlier. It's like there's this long-term commitment to collaboration. With Mike, you've been building on the show throughout the years, and with Coffee and with the formative team, you've been building that process and that vision of what Music is King is, what the Black Coffee portion of that show is. It's not just a turn up, bump out some stuff. Cotton Fest, the same thing. It's like building this like long-term vision. How do we collaborate on that vision, dig into the artist, dig into the music, really try and unpack it and every time we get another opportunity to try and pack it a bit deeper, a bit more complex, try expand on ideas. And I think that's quite rare, and like I think it's quite special with those kinds of shows where you've had an opportunity to build on it year on year and develop the concept, like build something stronger.
Definitely.
And, it's really cool.
I mean, no, it's been amazing, and I'm so grateful to all those shows. And I think what it also shows, though, is that an artist takes their own visual identity that seriously. And when you've got something to work with that as a basic, you can build that into whatever, three-dimensional sculptural stage space you have. You can take that further and go, this is who you are and what your visual language is and what your narrative is, and let's just keep elevating that and keep pushing that identity. Mike has a very specific look, and it was already set up a long time ago, and you just take that look and go, how does it translate? It's like motion design or anything that I do for documentaries or films or commercials or anything. It's that same kind of thing. How do you take this thing and just keep building and keep moving forward so that you're not dismantling something, so that the following year it's not something completely different, or if it is, it's something that kind of speaks to the thing that you did before, even if it is the complete opposite and it's a new direction. You're still in dialogue with what there was, what was there.
For sure. And looking back, and I know you've obviously, like we spoke about earlier, like had quite a big passion about trying to empower the younger generation and the next wave of people and the next artists and things like that. So what advice would you give to your younger self, or what advice would you give to anyone up and coming? Or would there be the same advice, or would there be different advice? Looking back.
You mean the one to me versus them?
Yes. If you could go back, in time and give yourself some advice when you were starting out versus giving someone who's starting out now advice, would it be the same advice or would it be different? What would you tell them?
I think for me, looking back, I feel nothing but absolute gratitude for every opportunity that I've been given. And I think I dived in deep and I was hooked because of what I love. I love doing this so much. So that was my complete drive through it all. So I'm just absolutely like, wow, thank you, big time. So I guess the advice is, that for me, I guess, there'll be challenges, there'll be super crazy challenges, but you'll get through them. And I guess that's kind of life stuff in general as well. Things will get really tough, but you will get through them. It kind of sounds very much like, hey, little one, but maybe that's just something to know, and keep I guess having a vision, or keep moving towards something that feels right, that thing, keep connecting with people that feels right, and keep moving in that direction, and don't lose yourself in what it is, or don't get disheartened, because I think like crazy stuff happens, and we work in a crazy environment, and I'm now more thinking, people can get wild, but it's gonna be okay, kind of thing, And I guess for the advice I would then, how that would really flow on to others, is very much that find the thing that you love and why you keep doing it, and let that passion fuel it all, because it's so important in the moments where you have no sleep or something. Learn who you are as a person when you have little sleep. Don't be snappy. Don't, like, everyone there is working hard. It's not about your super hard work and lack of sleep kind of thing. Just keep working with everyone, keep communicating, keep teaching yourself as much as you can, keep learning, but learn the stuff that interests you, because I think that kind of authenticity is what will keep you there. If you're kind of doing something for a while and you're really not enjoying it, you're going to end up hating the thing yourself. You're going to be miserable around people and make it miserable for them. So don't do that. And it'll take a while to figure stuff out, and that's okay, but I think as long as you also don't come in and go, just ask questions, be honest about what you know and what you don't know. If you've hit a point where you go, hey, I thought I figured this out, but I really need help now, create that environment where we're all communicating and we're all helping each other, because that's really what we all want to do, given an opportunity. You know, we want to be there for each other. It's not about flying solo, I think. And yeah, if the youngins want to be VJs, that's a changing thing. It didn't exist when I, was a youngin. It came through much later. So, so I think, just keep learning whatever tools you can. Keep learning the software. When you're preparing for a show, research the artist, know what visual identity they're about. Keep playing to that, because you're there to make them look good. You're there to work together in a team to create something that's bigger than you. And just, prepare, download, reference, research, know the styles. And I guess with what you were saying earlier, with the thing of having something ready, I'm super grateful, because I've had so many years of building a library, of collecting stuff, of playing for different musicians, of playing in completely different circumstances, for having to know, oh, I've got this thing, I've got that thing, I can drop that. Or again, having, done something weird and gone, that's okay if I do something weird for a little while, I'll find my way out of it. Or if you're mixing and you feel like you've messed up, you just go, I'm just going to do that, 3 times, and then it looks like it's on purpose, and then I'll get out of it. just keep moving forward. Yeah. Keep building, keep going forward. Like, don't dismantle stuff, or and just if you're here, just enjoy the journey. I think for a lot of us, it's it's hard, because it's a lot is going on at the time, and you've got to find those moments to just go, we're in this together, this is amazing, because then that drives you, because you lose that otherwise. I think if you just too goal orientated all the time, or there's these markers that you are hitting or not hitting, and you're beating yourself up about, or whatever. I mean, for me as well, like reaching out to artists, reach out to people, go be proactive, go and say, hey, I love your music, I love your visuals, can you just send me a photograph and I'll do something with it? And do something. It's not always about the money, definitely not. I mean, I've lived my life like that generally, just make the thing, make it first. You don't even know what you've done 10 years ago will suddenly spark something, or somebody remembers that and you'll get a job because of that, or like you don't know what that thing is that will come from the thing that you do, as long as you connect with your gut and make that thing. And I hope as well, keep on keep respectful, keep humble, know that there's a whole bunch of people that you can figure out how to support. It's don't know how to say this, but yeah.
No, that's amazing. There's definitely so much good stuff in there, and I'm sure that anyone watching will have hopefully gotten a lot from this conversation as well. I think there's a lot of wisdom to be had in what you shared today. So thanks so much for your time. It's been incredible to listen.
Thank you. Sorry, it was a while. Sorry,
no, not at all.
Went on tangents. Love it.
That's the sound of a good conversation.
Totally.
I sincerely appreciate you sharing like all your story and your wisdom with us, and with everything that we've kind of we've done together. I really appreciate what we're able to do here today.
Thank you for the same, and all the shared adventures.
Absolute pleasure.
Cool.
Absolute pleasure.
Thanks for doing that, and being able to share this on and connect with others from it and growing something is really special. So thanks for doing this, and really in this time especially, thanks for connecting.
No, pleasure. We want to encourage you all to share your stories and connect with your industry friends using the hashtag #AndFriends, and we can grow this platform to inspire, share, and unify industry. And we can't wait to learn all about your stories. So thanks guys, and we'll see you all next time.